Hello, my name is Jiso and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō, and we are about halfway through Kuyo-shobutsu, Serving Offerings to Buddhas, chapter 87. Maybe a little bit over halfway through, I might even get it finished today. Maybe not. We've had some quotes from Master Nagarjuna. The ancestral Master Nagarjuna said, "Furthermore, because Buddhas revere Dharma, they serve offerings to Dharma and make the Dharma their teacher. Why? Because the Buddhas of the three times all make all Dharmas our real form into their teacher." Someone asks, why do they not serve offerings to the Dharma within their own bodies, but only serve offerings to the Dharma in others? Do they not serve offerings to the Dharma within their bodies, but only serve offerings in the Dharma to others, to the Dharma in others? I answer, I'm just going to carry on. I answer, they follow the way of the world. When a bhikkhu wants to serve offerings to the treasure of Dharma, he does not serve offerings to the Dharma within his own body, but serves offerings to others who are retaining Dharma, who know Dharma, and who understand Dharma. Buddhas also are like this. Even though the Dharma is present in their own bodies, they serve offerings to the Dharma in other Buddhas. Someone asks, given that Buddhas do not seek to gain merit, for what reason do they serve offerings? I answer, Buddhas for countless asimkayas of kalpas cultivate all virtues and constantly practice all forms of good, but not in pursuit of reward. Because they revere virtue itself, therefore they perform the service of offerings. That's next door's dog. For instance, when the Buddha was living, there was a blind bhikkhu who... I'm just going to close the door, hang on. She barks at cats, birds, people, noises, her own shadow, bees, you name it. Right. I answer, Buddhas for countless asimkayas of kalpas cultivate all virtues and constantly practice all forms of good, but not in pursuit of reward. Because they revere virtue itself, therefore they perform the service of offerings. For instance, when the Buddha was living, there was a blind bhikkhu who, though his eyes saw nothing, sewed robes by his own hand. Once his needle came unthreaded, and he said, "Is there any lover of merit who will thread the needle for me?" Then the Buddha came there and told the bhikkhu, "I am a person who loves merit, so I have come to thread your needle for you." This bhikkhu recognized the Buddha's voice. He promptly stood up, put on a robe, and bowed at the Buddha's feet. He said to the Buddha, "The Buddha has already a fully accomplished virtue. Why did you say that you love merit?" The Buddha replied, "Although I have accomplished virtue already, I profoundly know the causes of virtue, the effects and results of virtue, and the power of virtue. That I now have attained preeminence among all living beings stems from this virtue. For this reason, I love it." The Buddha, having praised virtue for this bhikkhu, then spontaneously preached to him the Dharma. The bhikkhu attained purity of the Dharma eye, whose clarity was beyond eyes of flesh. I heard this story long ago during a nighttime talk in the room of my late master. Thereafter I was able to check it against the sentences of Daichidoron, which is the origin. The instruction of the ancestral master of the Dharma transmission had been clear, and he had left nothing out. These sentences are in Daichidoron, fascicle number 10, Daichidoron. That the Buddhas invariably treat all Dharmas our real form as their great teacher is evident. Shakyamuni also reproved the usual method of all Buddhas. Their treating all Dharmas our real form as their great teacher means their service of offerings to and veneration of the three treasures of Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. Buddhas for countless asimkayas of kalpas accumulate innumerable virtues and good roots without seeking any reward at all. They simply serve offerings in veneration of virtue itself. Having arrived at the state that is the Buddha effect of Bodhi, they still love small acts of virtue, and so the Buddha threads the needle for the blind bhikksu. If we hope to clarify the virtue that is the Buddha effect, the present story is an exact account of it. Therefore, the virtue which is the Buddha effect of Bodhi and the truth which is all dharmas are real form are not as in the thoughts of common men in the world today. Common men today think that all dharmas are real form might apply to the commitment of wrongs, and they think that the Buddha effect of Bodhi might only relate to gain. False views like these, even if they see 80,000 kalpas, can never escape the essentialist view of past kalpas and the trivialist view of future kalpas. How can they perfectly realize the all dharmas are real form that Buddhas alone together with Buddhas perfectly realize? The reason they cannot is that what Buddhas alone together with Buddhas perfectly realize is just all dharmas are real form. Broadly, there are 10 kinds of service of offerings, namely 1. Serving offerings to a person, 2. Serving offerings to a kaitya, 3. Serving offerings to what is actually present, 4. Serving offerings to what is not actually present, 5. Service of offerings performed by oneself, 6. Service of offerings performed by others, 7. Serving offerings of property, 8. Serving offerings of excellence, 9. Untainted service of offerings, 10. Serving offerings of attainment of the state of truth. Among these, number 1, serving offerings to a person, is explained as follows. Performing the service of offerings to a Buddha's physical body is called serving offerings to a person. Number 2, making offerings to a Buddha's shrine is called serving offerings to a kaitya. Shōbōgenzō says, one containing bones is called a stupa. One without bones is referred to as a kaitya. Some say that both are called kaityas. Further, the Sanskrit word stupa, pronounced chuba, is here translated as square tomb or shrine. The Agamas say shicha. Whether we call it a stupa or whether we call it a kaitya, it appears to be the same. On the other hand, great Zen master Nangaku Eishi's Hokasenbo says, wholeheartedly we bow in veneration to the shariras, to the images of honoured ones, to the kaityas, to the wonderful stupas, and to the Tathagata abundant treasures, and the treasure stupa that is the whole body of worlds in the 10 directions. Clearly, in these words, kaityas and stupas, shariras and images of honoured ones seem to be separate. Sogiritsu, fascicle 33, says, Dharma regarding stupas. The Buddha was staying in the kingdom of Kosala and wandering. On one occasion, a Brahmin who was ploughing the earth saw the world-honoured one going by. Holding his ox stick on the ground for support, he bowed to the Buddha. The world-honoured one, having seen this, smiled. The accompanying bhiksus said to the Buddha, For what reason did you smile? We solely desire to hear. The Buddha then told the bhiksus that this Brahmin now has bowed to 2 world-honoured ones. The bhiksus said to the Buddha, Which 2 Buddhas? The Buddha said to the bhiksus, In this bowing to me, right under his stick, there was a stupa of Kasyapa Buddha. The bhiksus said to the Buddha, We beg to see the stupa of Kasyapa Buddha. The Buddha told the bhiksus, You must request from this Brahman this plot together with its mass of earth. The bhikshus at once requested it, whereupon the Brahmin at once donated it. Having obtained the land, the world-honoured one then manifested a 7 treasure stupa of Kasyapa Buddha. Its height was 1 yojana, and the width of its front was half a yojana. The Brahmin, upon seeing it, immediately said to the Buddha, "World-honoured one, my family name is Kasyapa. This will be my Kasyapa stupa." Then the world-honoured one at the same abode fashioned a stupa for Kasyapa Buddha. The bhikshus said to the Buddha, "World-honoured one, may we contribute mud and earth or not?" The Buddha said, "You may contribute them." Then he preached the following verse. Hundreds of thousands of pounds of pure gold brought for almsgiving do not equal a single ball of mud used with devout mind to build a Buddha's stupa. At that time, the world-honoured one himself constructed the stupa for Kasyapa Buddha. Its base was 4-sided and it was surrounded by a handrail. The mound was of circular construction in 2 layers, with square tusks protruding in the 4 directions. The top, which was decked with banners and canopies, showed a long spire of rings. The Buddha said, "The method of building a stupa should be like this." The stupa had been completed. The world-honoured one, because he venerated the Buddhas of the past, then personally performed prostrations. The bhikshus said to the Buddha, "World-honoured one, may we perform prostrations or not?" The Buddha said, "You may." Then he preached the following verse. People's hundreds of thousands of gifts of gold brought for almsgiving do not equal 1 good mind bowing in veneration to a Buddha's stupa. At that time, people of the world, hearing that the world-honoured one had built the stupa, came bearing incense and flowers to offer to the world-honoured one. The world-honoured one, because he served offerings to the Buddhas of the past, then received the incense and flowers and took them to serve as offerings to the stupa. The bhikshus said to the Buddha, "May we serve offerings or not?" The Buddha said, "You may." Then he preached the following verse. Hundreds of thousands of carts of pure gold brought for almsgiving do not equal 1 good mind with flowers and incense, serving offerings to a stupa. At that time a great gathering came together like a cloud. The Buddha told Shariputra, "You will preach the Dharma for these people." The Buddha then preached the following verse. Hundreds of thousands of Jambudvipas, filled with alms of pure gold, do not equal 1 gift of Dharma that causes others accordingly to train. At that time, among those seated in the assembly, there were some who attained the truth. The Buddha then preached the following verse. Hundreds of thousands of worlds, filled with alms of pure gold, do not equal 1 gift of Dharma, according to which we see the genuine truth. I think I'm going to leave the rest because my voice is running out. I'll come back to this tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Take care.